Dear future me, I really hope you manage to trim this down.
Ooh, are we doing the Munk debate?
Yes.
With Peterson and Fry?
Yes.
I want to be Fry!
I'm being Fry.
No!
It was always I who would be Fry.
You will never be Fry!
You could be Peterson.
I've already been Peterson! I was Peterson for 17 minutes, it was ghastly! I couldn't even make half a mouth noise without inadvertently offending 1 million people. It's like being on an alien planet where every English word just happens to be a racial slur.
Yes, that's why you're doing it, dickhead. That's why I'm making you the famous one. So I get all the perks of being a spin doctor without the hassle of being a leading public representative. Why should I endure the slings and arrows? This is what puppets are for.
That's maniacal. You're maniacal.
Ha! Pass off, you fat fuck.
You can't be Stephen Fry and Malcolm Tucker.
Yes, I can. Have you seen Absolute Power?
What?
The sitcom where Fry does just that.
All right.
Yeah, owned.
I'll own you in a minute.
We have just established that you never will.
I might. Ever heard of Frankenstein?
You're not Frankenstein, mate. You're Chucky.
I've never heard of Chucky.
Touché.
Three-shay.
Cliché.
Finish the fucking story!
Hi guys, last 2 videos were shit, I know, and short, so I'm making it up with another uncomfortably long one. I just can't find the middle ground at the moment. I only skimmed the surface of this debate, but I think I hit the main themes. Please do watch the whole thing for yourself if you have the time. Link is in the low bar as usual. Alright, let's go.
Tonight's motion, be it resolved, what you call political correctness, I call progress.
Well, with all due respect, sir, that might be the most fucked up Munk debate I've heard of since Be It Resolved Men Are Obsolete. Which is to say, it's not as bad as that, but it's still a sure sign of wayward regress that we're having a serious public intellectual debate about what is the appropriate terminology to use for the systemic hatred of North Europeans and men. We're arguing over the best euphemism to call it.
Be it resolved. What you call collateral damage, I call localized rapture. What you call rendition, I call a package holiday. What you call ethnic cleansing, I call happy rainbow friendship time. Yeah, I would fucking love to live in a country where this is the kind of thing the intellectuals argue about.
We're not even asking anymore if men are obsolete. Now we're at the point of, given that it is resolved that men are obsolete, should we refer to this planned obsolescence of human beings as progress? Or just political correctness? There's no one on the panel going, I don't call it either of those things. I call it what it is. The planned obsolescence of white fucking males. Also interchangeable as the systematic marginalization of white fucking males. You might find yourselves actually getting somewhere in this debate if you dispense with the euphemistic newspeak altogether and call things what they clearly and plainly are.
Is there any point in covering this now? That's pretty much the whole response right now.
The rest is just for fun. There is fun. Don't worry, folks. You'll start having it soon. If you started drinking at the beginning like I did. Well, I've said my piece.
I abstain.
Time for the competition. I mean opposition to give their contribution. Which I'm afraid we're obliged to interrupt at least every 20 seconds for the sake of fair use. I know I should let you speak for 6 minutes, but that's strictly forbidden in this format. I hope you understand.
Yeah, I do not.
Not you.
Then don't answer for me.
I did. Shut up.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
The reason I'm on this side of the stage is that political correctness isn't just a term for left-wing excesses on college campuses or people being terrible on Twitter.
Oh, me. No, like I said, it's the planned obsolescence of white males, wheresoever it's found. It's my interpretation of what political correctness actually refers to. If you manage to disprove or even deny this interpretation of mine at any point in the following debate, I will insert it here. If, however, in the course of this debate, either of you, in your actions, embody evidence, living, breathing, outwardly mobile evidence, that my interpretation is accurate, at least in your case, that when you show flagrant and unapologetic prejudice against white males as a group, you get to call it political correctness. If that happens, then we will cross those bridges when we come to them.
The people who hold that our culture is an oppressive patriarchy, they don't want to admit that the current hierarchy might be predicated on competence. Now, that sounds particularly insane to me.
I bet it does.
Because I'm an American and our president is Donald Trump. But,
It's a popularity contest. What is competence when it comes to a popularity contest? Winning it.
if you go back to the 1970s, Ms., MS, as an alternative to Miss or Mrs., stuck around, and women with a Y didn't. And I think that someday, or I hope that someday, we'll look back and marvel at the idea that gender-neutral pronouns ever seemed like an existential threat to anyone.
Do you know, I'll have to get back to you when I've researched any cases in which the government fined its citizens for inappropriate negligence, to use the word Ms. Never happened as far as I know, and yet Ms. is already commonplace in our parlance. Isn't it wonderful when you enrich the greater lexicon without using the state-sponsored gunpoint thing?
There are plenty of places that have indeed dialed back cosmopolitanism and reinstated patriarchy in the name of staving off chaos, and they seem like terrible places to live.
You mean like Iran, right? Is that what you're allowed to say?
I come to you from the United States.
Well saved.
The United States, which is currently undergoing a monumental attempt to roll back social progress in the name of overcoming political correctness.
Bullseye, back of the net. You called it the right thing and addressed nothing. There are people out there who want to prevent the planned obsolescence of white males. And they sound like the lunatics, see? Because that's a thing that we call social progress. And by the way, when I say planned obsolescence, it's a many-faceted thing I'm talking about. Planned obsolescence of a product, as you probably know, does not result in the extinction of that brand. It just makes the units somewhat overpowered and with somewhat shorter lifespans. It's just, it's arguably less of an ethical breach to do it with iPhones than to do it with human males. My 2 cents anyway. Next.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to stand here at the podium. I'm a preacher.
As you can hear from the laughter, sir, if you actually did that, it would be laughable. Hey, dude, do you know what a Barnum statement is?
The abortive fantasy just presented is remarkable for both its clarity and yet the muddiness of the context from which it has emerged.
And that was a Barnum statement that described itself. It was an autological Barnum statement. So let's cut some corners and call it woo. I'm going to skip the rest of your woo as and when it occurs, and that's not going to leave you with very much.
When we look at the radical left, I'm saying, where they at? I want to join them.
Venezuela. You may notice the visage of my face converging like a melting clock and slowing down to a temporal standstill as you backpedal away at the speed of light. There. That's why you can't quite tell where all the radical left are. They're made of 70% photons at any given moment.
Last time I checked, white folk invented race.
One more time.
Last time I checked, white folk invented race.
White folk invented race. Okay, that sounds like it's not true, but it sounds like the kind of thing I'll have to look up to confirm it's not true. Maybe it's one of those things Aristotle came up with. So let's blame the barbarians. I mean the white people.
Given that Caucasians are the bastard love children of Homo sapiens and the now extinct Neanderthals, it would make sense that they were the ones who invented race. They are already mixed race.
Food for thought. Just like Britain is already a mixed culture and English is a mixed language. That's why we invent so much language and culture. I should probably save that for the Scarborough talk. Yeah, announcement made, I guess.
The beauty of feminism is it's not going to resolve differences between men and women. It just says men don't automatically get the last word. Of course, in my crib, they never did.
Presented without comment.
And I ain't seen nobody be a bigger snowflake than white men who complain.
Presented only with already stated comments. This doesn't prove anything on a large scale. It's just anecdotal, but at least consistent evidence that political correctness is indeed a euphemism for the systematic marginalization of white males, or the institutional micro-oppression of white males. Fill in the blank. I can call it whatever set of buzzwords they're teaching you this semester. It's those bad things that happen to people happening to white males. That's what you are calling progress.
And in a sane world, it would all be presented without comment. If you think progress is a suitable euphemism for targeted genetic prejudice, then you are the main event, darling. You are a circus attraction unto yourself. No rebuttal is necessary, other than bemused laughter and hastily gasped swear words.
Unfortunately, we don't live in a sane world.
Maybe you're the insane one.
Why not both?
Because it's solipsistic.
No, it isn't.
Oh, look at me, I'm the world.
I didn't. It's not solipsistic to notice a common property of myself and the world, especially if that property is insanity.
Oh, look at me, I'm insane. I'm better than normal people.
Finished?
Finished? I haven't even broke out the lube.
Used to have under the old regime where we were right, racist, and supremacists.
Sir, the bathroom is just off stage left there. If you need to go, just say so.
Under the old regime where we were right, racist, and supremacists, and dominant, and patriarchs, and hated gays and lesbians and transsexuals.
It's a good thing brown people have never done that. Oh wait, when brown people do it, it's white people's fault. Well, white people didn't ask to be born. You lot did that, remember? By raping all those cave beasts.
So, great set of opening statements to set the scene. We're now going to go into a round of rebuttals.
We were already doing that. The format is now meaningless. The structure of this dialogue is now a shapeless heap of debris. This is all your fault.
What'd I do?
You inserted another irreverent interlude to act as a scaffolding for the replacement structure.
Yes.
Gay.
People who have, women who have challenged Mr. Peterson have been hounded.
You mean women who have hounded Mr. Peterson have been challenged? Women on network television, whose job it is to present news objectively, have instead simply hounded Mr. Peterson with, let's call it misandric invective, in a translucently duplicitous attempt to smear his character to death with lies, and have then been challenged about it by random paupers on the internet. Yeah, what you accuse the unwashed nobodies of doing on Twitter is precisely what the mainstream media and its figureheads like Cathy Newman are doing in their broadcasts, but on a very different scale. They harass people. They harass anyone they can't shame into conformity. You're acting with an amoral, tribalist thuggery equivalent to the worst scum you can find on Twitter. The worst scum you can even imagine on Twitter. And yet, you are the establishment media. Do you understand the difference in power and responsibility there? I mean, if you look deep enough into the annals of fucking society, you'll find men stealing apples on the street. But that doesn't mean celebrities get to cut their fucking hands off. That's the bigger problem. Do you see? You'll never see. Men equals rich, women equals poor. That's all. That's everything. Now and forever, / as and when we approve. Why the fuck do I bother?
For the money.
The money helps. Speaking of which, your turn, Reverend.
And when he talks about postmodernism, I don't know who he's talking about. I teach postmodernism.
So you must at least have some inclination of who he's talking about. Translation, please.
He's talking about you, dipshit.
What's at stake are bodies. What's at stake are people's lives. What's at stake? People are still being lynched, killed.
No, they're not. The lynchings are now illegal and frowned upon, unless it's purely on grounds of gender, namely the male one. Racial lynchings are now illegal and frowned upon, especially in white nations. See, I'm not pissed off about the Neanderthal genocide thing, because it was a long time ago and it's not happening anymore. Except genetically. But at what point will you concede that the oppression of blacks in white nations is not happening anymore? When will you accept that? When the lynchings stop? Evidently not. You're just going to lie and keep pretending they haven't stopped. That doesn't bode well, is all.
But in the United States, a huge part of our politics has been groups struggling for rights for their individual members, right?
While also explicitly struggling to ignore, undermine, or even reduce any rights of other groups and their individual members. For example,
so women in the United States, seeking the right to reproductive control of their body.
When they already have it. Meanwhile, ignoring the fact that men have no reproductive rights. That is what you mean by political correctness. That is what you mean by progress, isn't it? Pretending women have problems when they don't, and pretending men don't have problems when they do, is the politically correct attitude to have. I'm going to keep harping on this because it's the only important takeaway from this. You are failing at the first hurdle. If you can even say politically correct, unironically, if that term can still claw its way out of your straight face, if you can still use a disturbing euphemism like political correctness, when you all know that what you're talking about is just the axiom, man bad, woman weak, end of story. Also, white bad, black weak, end of story so far. Once again, I'm reluctant to say, stop saying that thing. I'm not going to go that far. I'm not attacking your freedom of speech. I'm reminding you of it. I'm reminding you that you're under no obligation to step into this game they play, where one kind of hatred is called bigotry, and the other kind of hatred is called the correct politics. You, madam, and you, sir, your position and your attitude is to deliberately inflate the perceived victimhood of women and minorities, and deliberately omit any traceable victimhood of men and whites. Okay, that is not what I call correct. It's not even what I call political. It's certainly not what I call progress. I call it sexism and racism. Just like the other kind, you may hide behind your euphemisms, but they will not shield you from me. They will only make you look like the charlatans and the hucksters and the filthy fucking AIDS pigs you are. Alright, can I stop yet? I mean, I've taken it round the houses now, surely.
No, the fun bit's coming up soon.
Oh yeah, the fun. The elusive, endangered, enigmatic forest fawn we call fun.
Stop alliterating.
No, never.
But when you asked people what they meant by political correctness, they called a woman they worked with girl and she got mad at them. And
then she got them fired.
They could, you couldn't in public wonder aloud whether the president of the United States was really a Muslim.
Or go out in public wearing the wrong kind of red baseball cap without a genuine risk of a beating. Or at least cloudy with a chance of harassment.
They didn't like that they couldn't make gay jokes anymore.
Yeah, even if they're gay. Even gay men can't affectionately call each other fags without getting banned from social media for it. And black people can't affectionately call each other niggers without getting banned from social media for it. I mean, for the crime of triggering nobody but a robot. Like I said, what you call collateral damage, I called internalized exile. Do you see what I mean? The examples you're giving are further evidence that political correctness means what you're doing now, ignoring any prejudice against one set group, while giving absurd concessions to and making dishonest excuses for the other set group, infantilizing them to such an extent that they themselves are objecting to it. A lot of them don't want to be kept on the safety wheels forever. But fuck it, the boss knows best. Whoever the fuck decided what's correct somehow knows best. And here's a good time to bring this up. I'm gonna have to break the theme ever so slightly now and show you something that Mr. Fry said.
And I'm not characterizing feminists as in East German, but it's like that, the Stasi are listening. You better be careful, they're listening.
And your rebuttal to that was this.
I understand, although it seems very vague, right? You kind of are not quite putting your finger on who is silencing you, except for a vague fear.
I mean, he very clearly nominated an ideology that counts for the millions of people who proudly hold to it. He said it, albeit quietly and hushedly, and with a preloaded olive branch, to inject a sense of perspective.
And I'm not characterizing feminists as in East German, but it's like that, the Stasi are listening.
It seems very vague, right?
Feminists.
You kind of are not quite putting your finger on who is silencing you.
Feminists.
Except for a vague fear in this terrible crowdsourced panopticon. But there's one group that really does think its feelings should be accommodated, and that is what we keep coming up against, and to some extent I'm part of it. I understand.
I'm not convinced you do. Either you didn't hear him when he said feminists, or you're just doing that thing where you forget what you feel like forgetting, or you were doing that intimidation trick where you dare them to say it a second time, and you suspect they don't have the balls to. He did not, by the way. But he did admit that it's because he's scared.
I'm scared.
Which is at least a mature thing to admit. You scare people, feminists. You hate men so much and get away with it so much that you scare people into silence. I mean, have you got what you want yet? Have you got enough of what you want yet? Have you got enough jollies? Have you got enough of your rocks off yet? Can we get back to strengthening our infrastructure at any point? All right, back to the chronological edit.
There's a lot of things that kind of random people on the internet in particular are able to swarm individuals and turn kind of stray remarks into social media campaigns.
Like, for instance, telling everyone that Jordan Peterson wants to enforce monogamy and ban makeup in the workplace. Both of which are lazy, myopic lies. Both of which you told in this debate. Again, this isn't tu quoque. It's tu solus. You have no one to point this finger at but yourself. You're accusing a faceless collective of committing an offence that you are presently guilty of committing as an individual. In isolated instances, we refer to this as projection or just intellectual dishonesty. In pathological terms, we locate it in the cluster B spectrum. Another reminder there. I know this is a meme that's never going to take off, but it's never stopped me before.
The idea that the radical left poses a greater threat than the radical right when you see actual fascism ascendant all over the world strikes me as something that you can literally only believe if you spend your life on college campuses.
Mm-hmm. College campuses! Where actual Marxism is ascendant all over the world, and has been for several decades. Colleges! Where they inform the legal, educational, and scientific systems of future generations. What the fuck are you saying, woman? Well, you would get the impression that the radical left is a problem if you live in one of those Bolshevik barracks we literally have all over the world. I'm done with you. I can't even tell how stupid you're being at this point. All right, closure. Let's do the fun bit.
You're doing well, but you're a mean, mad white man. Non-traditional feelings of empathy. Mean, mad white man. Okay, you wouldn't be a victim. So you're a mean, mad white man. Feeling a kind of condescension.
Under the old regime where we were right.
Because I'm interested as an individual of breaking down barriers.
Racist and supremacist and dominant and patriarch.
Please don't see me as a member of a group that you think is a thug, a nigger, a nihilist, a pathological person. Mean, mad white man. When I get categorized for no other reason than my color, and it's manifest with lethal intensity and ferocity right here on stage. I am living in a culture that refuses to see me as a great individual. You're a mean, mad white man.
The mean, mad white comment was not predicated upon my historical excavation of your past.
It's based upon the evident vitriol with which you speak and the denial of a sense of equanimity among combatants in an argument.
So I'm saying again, you're a mean, mad white man, and the viciousness is evident.
Okay.
Oh my God, was that a politically incorrect statement I just made? It's hard to be the self-deprecating Englishman.
Arguably, yes. We deprecate ourselves by insisting that we are not to be a bother, not to intrude or even risk intruding on anyone's personal space or convictions. Englishmen deprecate themselves by not imposing or even highlighting their victimhood as an excuse to be a bother.
Whereas you, sir, whoever you may be representing collectively, you deprecate yourselves by highlighting and even imposing your victimhood as an excuse to be a bother. Perhaps the jury is still out on which of these is a healthier option. Perhaps when it comes to maintaining a civilization or something. Perhaps I'll bring this up in my talk at Twist Live, June 16th, 7 p.m. at Scarborough Spark Grand Hall. Tickets in the lover.
Shill!
Yes. Normally I don't shill like myself, but normally there aren't literal seats for literal bums to literally fill. Alright, we're done with this. The rest is just a drain spiraling bit of fluff. Worth watching though, just because it's what's going on, you know. If I were Stephen Fry or Jordan Peterson, I might lament or even agitate that the subject of political correctness still has not been addressed in this debate. And the reason it's so confusing is because we haven't even defined it. Well, I have. I wasn't there, but for the sake of argument, I have what I think is a solid interpretation of what we call political correctness as, to put it reductively, the hatred of white males and the apologetics for the hatred of white males. And my definition may not necessarily have been talked about, but it has been, I think we can reasonably agree, demonstrated. And fair enough, y'all did argue the case for the planned and executed obsolescence of white males. The case being, they have original sin, privilege. They've been abusing their godlike powers ever since they were mutated into existence or some shit. So they don't deserve free speech, nor does anyone who speaks on behalf of their benefit. It's a hideous idea as far as I'm concerned, and the last thing in the world you could call progress. But at least you did address it. So in a way, I'm even more disappointed in Fry and Peterson here. Because even though their opponents use the euphemism, at least they recognize the position that euphemism represents. Fuck the white front-tail apes. Whereas you two, whom I both otherwise admire very greatly indeed, you wouldn't even oppose that position. All you could do was address the euphemism, political correctness, because you still capitulate to using it. You need to break through that fucking membrane. Politically correct is a pair of words so obviously mutually contradictory that it is so obviously the stuff of Orwell that only the loyal subjects of Big Brother would fail to see it. There, I mentioned it. It's heroic of me to get this far without pulling the Big Brother cliche, but I caved in. That'll do. That'll do for a disappointing finisher. Thanks for listening, guys. And yeah, sorry for the erratic uploads lately. I'm getting very easily distracted. Oh, look, a shape!